Good evening, and welcome to the 55th Annual Delaware State Teacher of the Year ceremony. We'd like to thank Voya Financial for making this evening possible. This year's competition was open to all public school districts and charter schools, challenging them to submit their best and brightest to see who will be the Delaware State Teacher of the Year for 2019. Each candidate's qualifications, classroom instruction, and message, if chosen as the National Teacher of the Year, have been reviewed by our distinguished panel of judges. Tonight, one of these 20 individuals will be chosen as the 2019 Delaware State Teacher of the Year, and his or her portfolio will be submitted for consideration as the 2019 National Teacher of the Year. But first, let's take a few minutes to meet Delaware's best and brightest. From Appoquinimink School District, Sarah Anderson.
In 2 weeks before my 21st birthday, my father lost his 2-month battle with cancer. Just like that, the life I had known had come and gone. Dealing with the loss of my dad, I knew I needed to get away from my once happy small town to find something to help me make sense of everything. On a whim, I applied for a program named Semester at Sea. Our instructions were to find a spot on the ship alone and sit and do nothing but reflect. I'd found a perfect spot on the deck with an amazing view of the water meeting the horizon. It was there during those 2 hours that everything I had been through the last year had finally hit me. It was then I felt like I started to grieve the death of my father. It was there that I promised myself and my dad that I wouldn't waste any more time in my life taking the easy route. After Semester at Sea, I came back home knowing that I wanted to make an impact and help others the way Erica had helped me. It reassured me that education was the path I wanted to take. And after almost 12 years from when I lost my father, and 10 years after going on that life-changing trip, I still believe that that voyage led me to who I am now. I know my dad would be amazed if he knew the journey I had taken and the person that I had become. What a big transformation from being that small-town girl that didn't believe much in her future to now a world traveler that keeps setting and reaching her goals.
Sarah's committed to helping her peers grow. She is selflessly and passionately involved in every aspect of the school community that she values and loves. From Brandywine School District, Bonnie Yerkanen.
I became a teacher because I wanted to make a difference in children's lives like my teachers did for me. As a child growing up in poverty, navigating school was often challenging. And while my parents encouraged my academic endeavors, they often struggled to guide me because neither of them had any higher education. My life was transformed by teachers who saw potential in me and went out of their way to open doors of opportunity. They recommended me for Upward Bound, a program designed to support students who would be the first in their family to attend college. I was mentored all through high school and through the college application process. For the first time, I saw higher education as a possibility for myself. I was also shaped by my high school theater teacher, Helen Barlow. She demanded excellence in all of her students because she truly believed in all of our greatness. She supported our goals and also pushed us to persevere through our challenges. Most importantly, she taught me to love myself and to be proud of where I came from. Now that I'm a teacher, I hope to have the same impact on my students. I want them to know that they have someone who believes in them and will be there through any hardships. I want to inspire them to dream big and to never place limitations on their futures. Because if Mrs. Yerkanen can do it, they can do it too.
Bonnie strives to create opportunities where students can become the social change agents of tomorrow. From Cape Henlopen School District, Robert Herrick.
Let me first start by saying that I'm probably the most improbable candidate of all of my classmates in high school to be a teacher. Mrs. O'Quinn, my 12th grade English literature teacher, used to tell me all the time, "Mr. Herrick, must I remind you there is a difference between a wit and a half-wit." So I'm probably the least likely one to sit here talking about why I became a teacher. But as I think about that, I think it's pretty clear in my mind that I became a teacher to help students like me, to help students that were a little bit antsy in class to be motivated and engaged. I think another reason I became a teacher is I've always been somewhat of an explorer, and I always like sharing my discoveries. And so I think that's what teaching kind of is sharing discoveries. I recently took my What's Your STEM Type survey that I'm going to give my kids this year, and my STEM type was 97% explorer. And I think that sums up why I'm a teacher, because I like to explore, I like to find out new things, and then I like to share it with people. And when my ninth graders ask me why I became a teacher, I tell them it's because I get to be the 15-year-old in the classroom that's in charge.
Robert believes that high-level learning is possible for all students through equitable and motivating lessons. From Capital School District, Joseph Fuller.
So the question of why I became a teacher, I'd really like to address sort of why I evolved from a teacher into a good teacher, or what I feel like is a good teacher. And really, the time for me came when I started to work with kids in the Intensive Learning Center. We have kids in there who are there for reasons that are far beyond their control. And one of the things I started to notice was the less a child came with resources, parent involvement, that sort of thing, the more likely they are to be placed in a setting like that. So, when I look back on, when I started to really commit myself and really get into, digging into doing what's best for kids, that's where it really started, was when I worked with kids who didn't have anyone else to advocate for them.
Joseph is a regular contributor to Professional Learning and conducts several sessions each year on technology and classroom management. The Christina School District Teacher of the Year, Jennifer Montanez.
I teach because, like most of us, I was inspired by a great teacher. Mine was in 4th grade. Her name was Miss Quill, and she was the best. I also remember her taking time to sign each of her autograph books. She called me Jennifer Fill-in-the. My last name was blank. I liked that she could joke with us and make us smile. Learning was fun, and she was my role model, and I wanted to please her each and every day. Because of that experience, I get that what I do every day truly matters. I want my students to love learning. I want them to come to school each day excited to spend our day together. I want them to see me as a person who's passionate about what I do, who loves them, and who loves helping them learn. I remind myself each day to at some point let down my guard and make those connections. I shoot that basketball at recess. I play Uno with them during indoor recess. I tell them a joke, or we laugh at each other's silliness. And if I'm lucky enough, 40 years from now, I may become someone else's Miss Quill.
Jennifer is a highly dedicated professional who strives each day for excellence in herself, her instruction, and her students. From Colonial School District, Mark Mackenzie.
Education was not my first thought or interest. I was actually in healthcare for 18 years, and then life took a turn. My wife was diagnosed with cancer, and so I decided to ensure that I had to be closer to home. And my wife looked at me face to face and she said, "Mark, I think you would be a great educator." And looking back, I said, wow, we have the chance to impact lives. We are at the front line. There's nothing more gratifying than seeing a child after 4 years of high school experience walk out saying, "Thank you. You've opened my eyes. You've reinforced the important success of not giving up. You've been there and motivated me. Whenever we made a mistake, you were always there to encourage us. You challenged us. You said, welcome mistakes, because then it becomes a lesson when you learn from it." This is my 8th graduation ceremony I've attended, and at every ceremony, I shed a tear. Because I say to myself, I had an impact in some child's life. I get to be me. I get to have fun. And I get a chance to really share what chemistry is about, not just from a chemistry's perspective, but sharing chemistry where it relates to accounting and art and financing and sports. And so my goal as an educator is to ensure that whenever a child or a parent comes in contact with me, they never leave the same. They leave excited, motivated, and change. And no other profession can you do that but being an educator. And that's why I enjoy this profession.
Mark is passionate about education and works tirelessly to mentor, motivate, guide, and empower students, making students college and career ready. From Caesar Rodney School District, Ashley Up.
I was born into a family of educators, so from the time I was able to talk, being a teacher was something that I aspired to be. But when I entered elementary school, things changed. I almost immediately knew that I wasn't like the other kids in my class. Although I had an insatiable appetite to learn, it was really difficult for me. I can vividly remember our leveled readers in second grade and the feeling I had when my peers were advancing to higher levels while I was stuck on the most basic of them all. This had an enormous impact on my confidence and contributed to a lot of anxiety about school and learning. When it came time for high school, I had almost completely ruled out becoming a teacher because I didn't think I was smart enough to educate others. I ended up pursuing a business career pathway until a marketing project my junior year had us plan and market a program called The Power of Positive for elementary students in our district. For this project, I had the opportunity to teach 3rd and 5th grade students how to remain positive during their upcoming state test. That day, I went back to school and wrote in my English journal that I 100% knew that I wanted to be an educator. It was during my time in those classrooms that I realized that although my experience in school was challenging and emotional, that I could build a classroom community where everyone felt valued and included. I really can't think of any greater honor than being able to live out my dream and service to others every single day.
Ashley's commitment to education is evident in her tireless effort to build a more inclusive, equitable, and empathetic school environment for her students and colleagues. Representing the Delmar School District, Michelle Howard.
I became a teacher to help guide students towards becoming responsible, respectful adults. I was nominated by those 9th grade students for Teacher of the Year. Those 9th grade students just graduated this past June, so I dug in my desk drawer and I found those statements and I reread them. And what they said was, Mrs. Howard makes sure each student knows exactly what they're doing. She's a teacher that makes sure you're giving your 100% best and doesn't take any slacking. She sets consequences that come with not following the rules and treats everyone with respect like a teacher should. At the same time, she lets kids make jokes, laughs with us sometimes, and actually has a sense of humor. And those students totally hit the nail on the head in describing me as a teacher. And rereading those statements makes me realize that I seem to be doing what I set out to do.
Michelle believes that student accountability is a very important trait that needs to be developed in our students and impressed upon by teachers, staff, and administration in our schools, and parents and guardians at home. Holding students accountable makes them more responsible not only for their work, but for their actions and their learning. Representing the Indian River School District, Courtney White.
I became a teacher because I really wanted to make a difference. I mean, that's the meat and potatoes of it. I really wanted to make a difference in my community and the lives of students. I think about those students that are out there that have challenges and need that extra help, that may not be successful in the classroom to begin with. And I got into education because I want to help those students as well as those high achievers find their best. I got into education more of it as a calling. When I graduated from college, this was not my first career. I had the opportunity to work at a college in Baltimore, and my favorite part of my career was working with college students. And I realized at that point in time that I needed to go back and further my education so that I could accomplish that goal. And the career has given back to me more than I probably have given to it. And that's the exciting thing about education. I love working with parents and my principal and my colleagues to come together to help every child reach their potential. So that's why I got into education, just to be a part of that great team.
To create a student-centered classroom, Courtney spends time building a culture of respect, not only with her students, but among her students. Representing the Lake Forest School District, Sarah Bushy.
The reason why I became a teacher is because of something that happened to me when I was in elementary school. So I will never forget this one day. It was around Halloween. The teacher announced that we would be having a costume contest. And right away, that sense of dread filled me because I knew that there was no way I could go to my mom and dad and ask them to buy me a brand new costume. So me being the creative person that I am, I went home and I took 2 of those large brown shopping bags. One was the head, and the other one I cut apart to attach arms and legs to. And I had made myself a robot man. And I remember I was so proud of this work. I had spent hours on it. I could not wait to show everyone at school. So I go to school, and unfortunately, what I was met with was not what I was anticipating. Lots of negative comments. I even heard whispers about how embarrassed I must feel that my family didn't have any money to go buy me a new costume. So I was feeling pretty low. And I truly feel that this exact moment when I was feeling this low is when I needed the most saving, and this is when it happened. So the teachers were giving out the awards for first, second, and third. And of course, they went to the families who had the most money because they were able to purchase the most lavish costumes. Well, all of a sudden, I noticed the teachers whispering, and it caught my attention. And they announced that they had a new award this year, and it was for the most creative, and they had given it to me. And it was at that moment that they saved me, and it was at that moment that I knew that I wanted to be an educator, because that feeling that they had given me, I couldn't wait to give that feeling to others. That feeling of, scooping in and saving someone when they need it and letting them know that it's going to be okay. It was just the best feeling in the world.
Sarah believes in teaching the whole child by going beyond academic instruction, instilling in her students the values of hard work and perseverance. Representing the Laurel School District, Carly Carrier.
When I was deciding what I wanted to be, I wanted to do something that involved everything with heart. And my parents have always said that I'm just that type of person. I have siblings that think stuff out, but my parents have always said that I just do everything with heart. And I wanted to choose a profession where I could share that love for learning and that compassion and things like that. So I decided to be a teacher because I thought, who else has the biggest heart on the planet and just always has such an open heart and is just always so willing to learn and embrace new things. And I knew that that was ultimately children. And when I realized that, I immediately, even in elementary school, started to do as much as I could. And I remember in 5th grade, I was able to read to a 2nd grade class, and I was so excited, and I jumped on that opportunity right away. And I left there feeling so happy. Even though all I did was read a book, I was just so ecstatic because they were just so happy and eyes wide open and ready to learn and listen. And I just thought it was the best feeling. And I literally knew from that day in 5th grade that I wanted to be a teacher. And I knew that I would get to share this joy over and over and over every single year. And it was just awesome. And I just knew getting to share my heart with the greatest people on the planet, and then also just having that support system, I knew from very early on that this is where I needed to be in this world. And I've loved it ever since.
Carly actively participates in the school's PBIS initiative and volunteers her time helping middle school girls with field hockey. The Milford School District Teacher of the Year, Veronica Evans.
One of the biggest reasons I became a teacher was to make a difference in the lives in as many students as I can. Teachers have the potential to interact with students from all stages of development and all walks of life. This is a thank you that has been taped to my computer for a few years now, and every now and again I read it to remind me of why I've taught for 22 years. And it doesn't tell me or you exactly why I became a teacher, but more importantly, why I continue to teach. I make a difference. Mrs. Evans, I just want to thank you for being one of the best teachers I've had all of my 13 years of schooling. I wish I would have met you sooner because I have loved having you as a teacher before my senior year. When I first came into class, I was a bit concerned because I have never been in an inclusive classroom before, so it was a bit of a culture shock. I love that you are able to develop a relationship with all of your students that extends beyond the classroom. The counselors should make sure every student that attends our school has you as a teacher more than once because you are such an amazing teacher in person. I will never forget the short time I spent in your classroom, and I know that you will continue to make a difference in so many students' lives. This young woman is now a nurse, and I can't help but feel that her experience in that inclusive classroom transcends into her passion for nursing and helping others, and that's why I teach.
Veronica believes in constantly adapting her practice to expand her students' worldview and provide a globally relevant education. From the Delaware Charter School Network, Thomas Becker.
As a child, I did not play teacher or have any dreams of becoming one. It was not until my senior year of high school when I started researching careers that I decided that I might want to teach. I was looking for a career that did not require me to sit in an office and would challenge me each day. It was not until I got into the classroom that I realized what teaching actually was and why I truly enjoy it. To study the art of teaching is to study how one learns. This is an extremely interesting and complex puzzle that I get to work on every day. I enjoy listening to students describe how they think about problems and explain why they made specific choices throughout their processes. What I discovered is that the more questions I ask about a student's process, without judging them for their misconceptions, the more they would open up about their thinking, leading me to a deeper understanding on why they made those choices. There is no better feeling than seeing a light bulb turn on in a student's mind and having that student realize that they are capable of learning. As a teacher, I now have the ability to help students discover their true potential. Every once in a while, a student will express their gratitude. A student gave me this card. It says, "I have known you ever since I began at MOT, and I want to thank you for everything you have taught me. You made me change the way I look not only at math, but at problems in general. I would not have wished to learn any other way. Thank you so much." That is why I teach.
Thomas is a teacher leader who opens up his classroom to his colleagues in his school as well as colleagues throughout the state and nation. From the Newcastle County Vocational Technical School District, Lindsey Scholl.
Who has most affected my teaching career? I feel so lucky that I could have so many answers for this. It makes me feel very appreciative that I work at a place like Howard High School because we are a true family and a true community. Everyone's willing to be there to help and support. But if I did have to narrow this down to one person, I would have to say my former principal, Dr. Spohr. Dr. Spohr is probably one of the most passionate people I've ever met. He was always willing to come into my classroom as a supervisor and provide me with feedback. And not just generic feedback, real feedback that connected to me, my classroom style, and my unique group of students. And he was willing to do this not just for formal observations, but at any time. If I sent him an email and said, "Hey, I'm trying something new and weird today, could you come and give me feedback?" he would definitely try to make it there if his schedule allowed. I always felt very supported. He motivated me. I was so inspired to work with him because every conversation we had about my growth as a teacher revolved around my students. Not one student, but every student. He made sure that I realized that not everything is always perfect and not everything is always negative. He'd always be there to provide me with a nice balance of constructive criticism and positive feedback. That way I felt as though I did have it in me. I could do this, but I'm not done yet. And I try to use that technique with my students as well. I want them to feel that, you are improving and everything is going well, but here are some things you can do to continue to improve, because that is a major goal of mine, is continuous improvement. And Dr. Spohr is definitely the person who helped me to achieve that goal.
Lindsey always keeps in mind her main priority, the inspiration and education of all students, to prepare them for their chosen post-secondary goals. Representing the Polytech School District, David Watson.
I often hear students say, I hate math. In reality, they don't hate math. They simply struggle to understand the advanced concepts I use in all of my courses. When I go back and review the basics of math and numeric skill, they realize that mathematics can be a beautiful subject, and they are very capable of succeeding. Teachers do amazing things in their classrooms, but we are often burdened by non-teaching related tasks. Oftentimes, because I've made connections with students, I'm able to identify an issue. I can call on the appropriate professional support staff to assist. I've been very fortunate to have a wonderful team at Polytech High School. Teachers are powerful in their ability to prepare students to be fearless in their pursuit of knowledge. Teachers have a remarkable capability to create lifelong learners who are continually improving their skills and abilities. Teachers are renowned in making connections with each and every student to allow every student the education they deserve and need. All of this expertise we have as teachers is rooted in the ability to effectively get back to basics.
David has that natural gift of not just comprehending difficult concepts, but also being able to relate them to students in a manner that is understandable. From the Red Clay Consolidated School District, Leah Zucchina.
A lot of people tend to ask the question, why did you become a teacher? And it's a question I'm sure a lot of teachers get, and I'm sure everybody's answer tends to be somewhat of the old-fashioned, I want to make a difference, and I love kids, or I've always played school growing up. And that happened to be my response, too, for a really long time, until I got my first teaching job. My first teaching job was in the city of Wilmington at a school that served almost 100% students that came from poverty. They all qualified for free or reduced lunch, and they were facing some of the most tremendous traumatic experiences in their home life. My purpose has since become to be really an advocate for these children and understanding that they need somebody like myself who has their best interest in mind and who's going to create the opportunity that they need to become successful and break the cycle that they were kind of born into.
Leah is active in creating meaningful relationships with students and promoting positive behavior through her role as the Positive Behavior Support Initiative lead. From Seaford School District, Dana Bowe.
I think I knew I was always going to be a teacher. My mom would cook family dinner every night, and we'd sit at the kitchen table and listen to my parents talk about the rewards and the struggles of teaching. Their jobs had such meaning and purpose. My dad was an English as a second language teacher. He enrolled children in migrant camps into school. He truly believed that these families would have choices for their futures through the power of education. My mom taught 4th grade. She was every kid's favorite teacher. She knew how to make connections with children and with their families. Both of my parents believed in the power of education. So of course my sister and I both wanted to be teachers too. You see, every day in middle school, I would watch a group of kids who are my age enter the cafeteria. They came in wheelchairs, some of them walking in braces with walkers, wearing helmets. They always had teachers close by. It wasn't just the kids who were making such an impression on me, but it was the relationship between the teachers and their students. What I remember was the love in their eyes for their students. The teachers would smile, hug, and laugh with their kids. It was this unconditional, I love you just the way you are relationship that stayed with me all these years later. I now have the job of those teachers who inspired me in the middle school cafeteria all those years ago. We smile, we laugh, we learn. Every day my students bring me such joy. I've been lucky enough to watch a child blend sounds to read when so many never believed they could. I watched a wheelchair-bound little girl take her first steps, and I witnessed a boy who was once limited verbal put words together to make a real sentence to communicate his needs and his wants. I'm so glad I chose to be a special education teacher. I still believe in the power of education, but I also believe in the power of unconditional love.
Dana believes all children are capable of greatness and works to ensure that each child achieves it. From Smyrna School District, Virginia Hoy.
I never knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I was actually working in finance for many, many years, and I found myself in a job where I really wasn't happy, and I felt like I wasn't making any real contribution to society. So my wonderful husband encouraged me to quit, which was very scary, but I did. And I started volunteering at my children's elementary school. And that led me to accepting a position as a paraprofessional, which was probably a turning point for me because I got to go into many different classrooms in an elementary school, and I was helping struggling students. And I got to see so many wonderful educators. I saw their passion, I saw their talent, I saw their dedication. I was amazed. Every child, every student deserves to have a teacher that is 100% there for them, that will do whatever they can to make learning fun, to make them feel successful, to make them feel good, to make them want to come to school. And I said to myself, you know, Virginia, maybe you can be that person. Maybe you can be that teacher that makes them feel safe, makes them feel loved, makes them feel successful. This is still my mission that I try to do every day when I go to work. I'm trying to make my kids love learning, love school, and I hope I'm doing that.
Although Virginia came to the wonderful profession of teaching later in life, she feels the journey was well worth the wait. Representing the Sussex Technical School District, Anthony Natoli.
Why I became a teacher, I feel like every job interview, every time anybody talks to me about being an educator, that's the first question, why? And, you know, in today's climate, it's kind of tough to be a teacher. And I had some teachers, specifically one, who inspired me beyond anything I could have expected. And it was 11th grade English. It was an AP class, and I was a little out of my depth at the time. English was something I loved. I loved reading, but I'd never taken a high-level course before. And in that class, there was this project. We were studying modernism, and we had gotten into J.D. Salinger and Catcher in the Rye. As part of this process, teacher said, well, you need to do an out-of-classroom activity. You need to design some type of project. You need to do something that really encapsulates the spirit of the Catcher in the Rye, you know, this young experience, and go off and do something incredible. That experience, that educational opportunity has really, it changed me. And I realized that education was not something where I sat down in a classroom and I stared at a board and I took notes. Because for a lot of my education, that's what it was. And this woman showed me that education is all around you. You can learn at any time, any place, and education is a constantly recurring thing, that it happens. And that education wasn't necessarily about teaching specific skills, but about an appreciation of learning and a desire to learn more. That's what my parents showed me, and that's what this teacher showed me. And so as I got to college and I was toying with every idea, trying different majors, different intros, the only thing that I was really comfortable doing was reading, and the best way I thought to transmit that to the world was through teaching. Whether it was working at summer camps or coaching, I found that everything I really enjoyed doing, I was working with other people, like-minded people, to better something or someone. And in teaching, I found the perfect profession.
Anthony believes in the power of community to create a more cohesive and equitable educational experience for all students. Representing the Woodbridge School District, Heather Carrick.
My most memorable classroom moment didn't actually happen in my classroom. It happened at a movie theater. And it all started because 6 years ago, I was looking for new literature for my 5th grade students and my own children. And I stumbled upon the book Wonder by R.J. Palacio, and I just fell in love with it. I read it in 2 days. I took it to my 5th grade team, and they were all very excited about it, and we decided to start the next school year with that book. And I thought it was really important for my 5th grade students to read this book because it has so many messages about acceptance and kindness and perseverance. And we really immersed ourselves in it. Whenever there was a song mentioned or a play mentioned or a place mentioned in the book, we would research them, and we had a lot of class discussions and lessons, and that book and our discussions just fostered such a classroom environment and community. Last year, the movie Wonder came out in theaters, and my teaching partner and I decided there's no one else we'd rather see that movie with than our students who we read the book with. So we invited all of our past students and their families to meet us at Rehoboth at the movie theater, and we watched that movie together. And those students now are all in different school districts. There are some in middle school, some in high school, but they came with their siblings and they came with their parents. And I'll never forget standing in that lobby and just thinking how amazing it was to see them all together. And I just remember looking at all these people in the lobby and thinking, look what we did and look what these kids did. And it was amazing. And I just had so much pride that one book and our conversations fostered such strong relationships and connections among these kids. And it gave them a willingness to want to change how they thought about other kids and change thoughts about how they can help in the community. And it was just very special to be a part of that. And I'm always striving to try to redo that with some other book, but I'll never forget that as long as I live. It was a really great experience.
Heather has served on numerous committees and teams, displaying her commitment to staff leadership and school improvement. Most recently, she worked with colleagues to create and facilitate professional learning to her fellow Woodbridge School District staff.